The diner's neon sign buzzed like a warning, its pink glow slicing through the dusk outside. I sat frozen, my heart hammering so loud I swore it could drown out the jukebox's crooning. Marcus's hand brushed mine on the countertop, and in that split second, I thought I'd combust, until I saw Uncle Ray standing in the doorway, his eyes locked on us like a hunter spotting prey. My name's Eli Carter, and I'm 22, stuck in the sleepy town of Havenwood, Virginia, where secrets are as common as fireflies but twice as hard to catch. I'd been sneaking moments with Marcus Delgado, the guy who made my pulse race like a runaway train, for weeks now. We met in the most ordinary way, at the auto shop where he worked, his grease-stained hands fixing my beat-up Chevy while his quiet smile fixed something else in me. But Havenwood wasn't the kind of place where two guys could hold hands in public without someone clutching their pearls or their pitchforks. So, we stole glances in the shadows, whispered promises in his truck, and prayed no one would notice. That night in the diner, though, we got careless. Marcus, with his dark eyes and that leather jacket that smelled like motor oil and freedom, had leaned closer than he should have. His fingers grazed mine, a spark in the dim light, and I didn't pull away. Uncle Ray, my mom's older brother and the family's unofficial gatekeeper of right and wrong, wasn't supposed to be there. He was supposed to be at the lumber yard, grumbling about overtime. But there he was, all 6'3" of him, his weathered face unreadable as he stared at us. "Eli," he said, his voice low and sharp, like a blade slicing through the diner's chatter. Marcus stiffened, his hand retreating, but the damage was done. My stomach churned. Uncle Ray wasn't just family. He was the man who'd raised me after Dad left when I was 10, the one who taught me how to fish, how to throw a punch, how to be a man. If he knew what I was, what we were, I didn't know if I'd lose him or just lose myself. "Ray, I started, but he held up a hand, silencing me. The diner's other patrons pretended not to notice, but I felt their eyes like needles. Marcus shifted, ready to stand, but Ray's gaze pinned him down. "Outside," Ray said, not a request. My legs moved before my brain caught up, and Marcus followed, his jaw tight. The bell above the door jangled as we stepped into the cool September air, the gravel lot crunching under our boots. I braced for the worst, a lecture, a fist, or that cold disappointment that cuts deeper than either. But Ray didn't swing. He didn't yell. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, staring at the horizon where the last sliver of sun bled orange. "How long?" he asked finally. I swallowed, my throat dry as sawdust. "A few months," I admitted, glancing at Marcus, who stood a step behind me, like he was ready to take a bullet if it came to that. Ray's eyes flicked between us, and I saw something flicker there, something I couldn't name. "You think I didn't know?" he said, almost a whisper. "You think I haven't seen you sneaking around, looking at him like he's the only damn thing that matters?" My breath caught. Marcus stepped closer, his shoulder brushing mine, a silent promise. "Sir," he started, his voice steady despite the tension, "I care about Eli. I'm not here to cause trouble." Ray snorted, but it wasn't cruel. "Trouble's already here, son." He looked at me then, really looked, and I felt like he was seeing me for the first time, not the kid he'd raised, but the man I'd become. "Eli, you're family, and family don't turn their back on each other. But you gotta tell me, why didn't you trust me enough to say it?" His words hit like a freight train. Trust. I'd spent so long hiding, so sure he'd reject me, that I hadn't even given him a chance. I was scared, I admitted, my voice cracking. "Scared you'd hate me. Scared I'd lose you." Ray's face softened, just a fraction, and he stepped closer. "I ain't perfect, Eli. I've got my own demons, my own regrets. But hating you? That ain't one of 'em." He paused, his eyes drifting to Marcus. "And you, Delgado, right? You hurt him, and I'll bury you where no one'll find you." Marcus nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Fair enough." The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and the weight of last night still pressing on my chest. Ray's reaction hadn't been what I expected. No shouting, no disowning. but it wasn't exactly a warm embrace either. I replayed his words in my head. Family don't turn their back on each other. Did he mean it? Or was it just a pause before the storm? I found him in the kitchen of our old farmhouse, the one Mom left me when she passed 2 years ago. Ray was stirring sugar into his coffee, his flannel shirt rolled up to his elbows, the same way he'd been every morning since I was a kid. But now, everything felt different. I sat across from him, my hands fidgeting with a napkin. "You gonna tell the others?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The others were my cousins, aunts, and uncles, the Carter clan, a loud, opinionated bunch who gathered every Sunday for dinner at Grandma's house. They were my world, but they weren't exactly waving rainbow flags. Ray took a long sip, his eyes on the steam rising from his mug. "You think they don't already suspect? Hell, your cousin Jenna's been asking me for months why you're always working late at the shop." He raised an eyebrow, and I felt my face heat up. Jenna, my nosy cousin with a heart of gold, had always been too perceptive for her own good. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted. "Tell them, I mean. What if they won't?" Ray cut in, firm but not harsh. "They're family, Eli. They'll grumble, they'll ask dumb questions, but they'll come around. And if they don't, they'll answer to me." I wanted to believe him, but Havenwood wasn't just small, it was stubborn. The town's church had a sign out front that read, "Love the sinner, hate the sin." And every time I passed it, I felt like it was aimed at me. Marcus and I had been careful, meeting at his place on the edge of town or driving an hour out to Richmond for dates where no one knew us. But now, with Ray in the know, the walls of my carefully built closet were crumbling. That afternoon, I met Marcus at the auto shop. He was under a car, his boots sticking out, and the sight of him, focused, capable, alive, made my heart do that stupid flip it always did. "Hey," I called, and he slid out, wiping his hands on a rag, his grin lighting up the dim garage. "How'd it go with Ray?" he asked, leaning against the car, close enough that I could smell the familiar mix of oil and his cologne. "He didn't kick me out," I said, trying to sound lighter than I felt. "But he wants me to tell the family. Like all of them." Marcus's grin faded, replaced by that quiet intensity one loved. "You don't have to do it alone, Eli. I'm here. Whatever happens." I nodded, but the fear still gnawed at me. Coming out to Ray was one thing. He was tough, but fair. The rest of the Carters? That was a minefield. There was Aunt Linda, who quoted scripture like it was her job. Cousin Nate, who thought tough love meant a fist fight. And Grandma, who loved me fiercely but had never mentioned anything remotely progressive in her 80 years. That night, Marcus invited me to his place, a small apartment above the shop. We cooked dinner, burnt tacos, because neither of us was exactly a chef, and sat on his couch, the TV playing some old western neither of us cared about. He pulled me close, his arm around my shoulders, and for a moment, the world felt safe. "You ever think about leaving?" I asked, my head against his chest. "Havenwood, I mean. Starting over somewhere where we don't have to hide." He was quiet for a long time, his fingers tracing circles on my arm. "Yeah," he said finally. "But running doesn't fix everything. Wherever we go, we'd still have to fight for this, for us. Might as well fight here, where we've got roots." His words stuck with me, heavy and true. Havenwood was home, for better or worse. And if I was going to stay, I had to face it, all of it. Sunday dinner at Grandma's was a Carter family ritual, as sacred as church and just as loud. The long oak table groaned under plates of fried chicken, collards, and cornbread, and the air buzzed with laughter, arguments, and the clink of sweet tea glasses. I sat between Jenna and Marcus, who I'd convinced to come, though his knee bounced under the table like he was ready to bolt. Ray had kept his word. No one else knew about us yet, but I could feel his eyes on me from across the table, steady and expectant. He'd given me an ultimatum, not in words but in that look. "Tell them, or I will." I wasn't ready, but hiding was starting to feel like drowning. Jenna, with her sharp eyes and sharper tongue, leaned over. So, Marcus, she said, loud enough to draw attention, you and Eli been spending a lot of time together, huh? The table went quiet, forks pausing midair. Marcus shot me a glance, and I saw the question in his eyes. Now? I swallowed hard, my heart pounding like a drum. Yeah, I said, my voice louder than I meant. We have. Because we're together. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Aunt Linda's fork clattered onto her plate. Nate's jaw tightened, and Grandma's eyes widened, her hands stilling on her napkin. I braced for the explosion, but it was Marcus who spoke first, his voice calm but firm. I love him, he said, looking around the table, meeting every pair of eyes. And I'm not going anywhere. The room erupted. Aunt Linda launched into a lecture about God's plan, her voice shrill. Nate muttered something about, not in this family, his fists clenched. Jenna, bless her, jumped in, snapping at Nate to grow up already. Grandma just sat there, her face unreadable, which was somehow worse. Ray stood, his chair scraping the floor, and the room fell silent again. Enough, he said, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Eli's my nephew. Marcus is his choice. You don't like it. That's your problem, not theirs. I stared at him, stunned. Ray, the man who'd once grounded me for a month for sneaking beer, was standing up for me. For us. Aunt Linda sputtered, but Ray shot her a look that could have stopped a bear. Linda, you want to talk about sin? Let's talk about that gossip you spread about the pastor's wife last month. That shut her up. Nate stormed out, slamming the door, and the rest of the family shifted uncomfortably, picking at their food. Grandma finally spoke, her voice soft but clear. Eli, you're my grandson. Nothing changes that. But this it's going to take time. Her words weren't a full embrace, but they were enough to keep me breathing. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table, and I felt a spark of hope, fragile but real. The fallout from Sunday dinner lingered like smoke. Nate refused to talk to me. Aunt Linda sent me Bible verses via text, and the rest of the family tiptoed around me like I was a bomb. But Grandma's words stuck with me, and Ray's defense gave me a courage I didn't know I had. Marcus and I started being less careful, holding hands at the diner, kissing quickly in his truck before I went home. Havenwood noticed, of course. Whispers followed us, and the church sign got a new message. Pray for our youth. Subtle. One night, Marcus and I drove to the lake, the same one where Ray used to take me fishing. We sat on the dock, the water black and still under the stars, and talked about the future, something we'd avoided until now. What do you want, Eli? He asked, his voice soft, his hand warm in mine. I want this, I said, gesturing between us. I want to stop hiding. I want a life where we don't have to look over our shoulders. He nodded, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. Then we fight for it. Together. But fighting wasn't easy. The next week, someone slashed the tires on Marcus's truck, leaving a note tucked under the wiper. Fags don't belong here. My blood boiled, but Marcus just shook his head, tossing the note in the trash. They're scared, he said. Scared of what they don't understand. I wasn't as forgiving. I wanted to find whoever did it, make them pay. But Marcus pulled me back, his hands on my shoulders, his eyes steady. We don't win by fighting dirty, Eli. We win by being us, out loud. His strength anchored me, but the town's hostility was wearing me down. I started noticing the stares, the way conversations stopped when I walked into the hardware store. Even Jenna, who'd been my biggest ally, admitted she'd gotten flack at work for defending me. Havenwood was closing ranks, and I felt like an outsider in my own home. Ray noticed. One evening, he found me on the porch, staring at the fireflies. You're tougher than this, Eli, he said, sitting beside me. You think I didn't get pushed back when I married your aunt? She was from the wrong side of town, according to half this place. But I didn't let him win. This is different, I said, my voice tight. This isn't just gossip. It's hate. Ray nodded, his jaw tight. Yeah, it is. But you've got people in your corner. Me, Jenna, your grandma. And that boy of yours, he's got grit. Don't let the loudmouths drown out the ones who matter. His words were a lifeline, but the fight was far from over. The next day, Marcus got a call from his boss at the shop. Someone had complained about his kind working there. The boss didn't fire him, but the warning was clear: keep your head down, or else. The pressure was building, a storm ready to break. Marcus and I decided to take a stand, not just for us, but for anyone else in Havenwood who felt trapped in the shadows. We started small, showing up together at the town fair, ignoring the glares. Jenna helped, dragging us to the cotton candy stand and laughing loud enough to drown out the whispers. But the real test came when Marcus suggested we go to the town hall meeting. Havenwood's town hall was a monthly ritual where folks aired grievances and gossiped under the guise of community business. The hot topic that month? A proposal to ban public displays of affection that offended community standards. It didn't take a genius to know who they were targeting. We walked in together, hand in hand, and the room went quiet. Marcus squeezed my fingers, a silent "we've got this." I spoke first, my voice shaking but clear. This town's my home. I grew up here, same as most of you. And I'm tired of hiding who I am just to make you comfortable. Marcus backed me up, his voice steady. We're not asking for your approval. We're asking for the same respect you give everyone else. The room exploded into arguments, some for us, some against. To my shock, Ray stood up, his voice booming. I've known most of you my whole life. You're better than this. Eli's my family, and if you've got a problem with him, you've got a problem with me. Grandma stood next, her small frame trembling but her voice firm. My grandson deserves to love who he loves. If that's a sin, then I'll answer to God myself. Their support floored me. The meeting ended with no vote on the ban, our first real win. But outside, in the parking lot, Nate was waiting, his face twisted with anger. You're tearing this family apart, he spat, stepping too close. Marcus moved in front of me, but I pushed past him. No, Nate. I'm trying to keep it together. If you can't handle who I am, that's on you. He stormed off, but his words lingered, a reminder of how much we still had to lose. The weeks that followed were a blur of small victories and bigger battles. Marcus and I kept showing up, together, unapologetic. The tire slashing stopped, and the church sign changed to something vague about community unity. But the whispers never fully went away, and Nate's silence grew louder. One night, Marcus took me to Richmond for a real date. No hiding, no fear. We danced at a club, his hands on my waist, the music drowning out the world. For the first time, I felt free, like the life I wanted was possible. But when we got back to Havenwood, reality hit hard. Someone had spray-painted "freaks" across my front door. I wanted to scream, to burn the whole town down. But Marcus, steady as ever, grabbed a can of paint from the garage and started covering it up. They don't get to define us, he said, his voice calm but fierce. I joined him, and by dawn, the door was clean, like the hate had never been there. Ray showed up later, his face grim. I know who did it, he said. Nate. My heart sank. Nate, my cousin, my childhood best friend. Why? I whispered. Ray shook his head. He's angry, scared, thinks he's losing you to this. He gestured vaguely, but I knew what he meant. I'll talk to him. No, I said, surprising myself. I will. I found Nate at the old mill, where we used to skip rocks as kids. He wouldn't look at me, his eyes fixed on the river. You changed, he said finally. You're not the Eli I knew. I'm still me, I said, my voice breaking. I just stopped pretending. I love Marcus, Nate. And I love you too. You're my family. But I can't keep hiding to make you comfortable. He was quiet for a long time, then nodded, just once. I don't get it, he said. But I don't want to lose you either. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. A year later, Havenwood wasn't perfect, but it was changing. Marcus and I moved in together, a small house on the edge of town, and the Carters started coming around. Jenna threw us a housewarming party, and even Aunt Linda showed up, awkward but trying. Grandma baked us a pie, her way of saying she was proud. Nate and I were rebuilding, slowly. He'd apologized, haltingly, and started joining us for Sunday dinners again. Ray, true to his word, never wavered, and his quiet strength held the family together. The town was slower to shift, but it did. The church sign now read, "All are welcome," and the town hall meetings stopped targeting us. Marcus and I still got stares, but they were fewer, softer. We'd fought for our place here, and we'd won, not everything, but enough. One evening, as Marcus and I sat on our porch, watching the fireflies, he took my hand. "You ever think about that night in the diner?" he asked, his smile soft. "All the time," I said. "The night Ray caught us." Marcus laughed, pulling me close, "and changed everything." He was right. That moment, when I thought I'd lose my family, was the moment I found them, really found them. Ray's choice to stand by me, to see me, had cracked open a door I'd thought was locked forever. And through that door, I'd found a life I hadn't dared dream of. One where I could love Marcus, love my family, and love myself, all at once. As the stars lit up the Havenwood sky, I leaned into Marcus, my heart full. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were home.